Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Podcast series. This is Lakshit Pant, your host for today. And today we have one special guest with us, Paul Andrew. He's a technical architect for Avanade, and he has been doing incredible work in the field of community in terms of in cloud computing world and in all this technical era. He has been doing incredible. Today we are going to record this podcast. We'll ask some basic questions with Paul. We'll have a discussion all around his technical journey and about his technical experience that he had. So, first of all, I would like you to introduce yourself, and Andrew. So, if you can introduce yourself first.
Sure. Well, you fell into the trap that everybody falls into. I have two first names. So Paul is my first name, Andrew is my surname. So yes, I'm a technical architect with Avanade, part of their Centre of Excellence department. That's very much my day job, if you like. By night, I guess you could say I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. And I also run my own business as well on the side, all consulting and all, very much focused on the Microsoft stack of technology, working with data for lots of enterprise customers across all industry verticals.
Yeah, so I was going through your profile and it was pretty amazing as your journey has been incredible. You have been all the technical guy, all the geek, and you had experience of 15 plus years in the tech industry, which is fascinating. So my question is, when you look back after all these things that you have built, the projects that you have worked on, how it feels like, how everything feels that you, the tech stack that you have learned and all these projects that you have built.
Yeah, it's been an interesting career, I guess you could say. I think I was born with a passion for technology, and from a very early age, I built my own computers, and I was technical support for friends and family. In the small village where I lived, I was the guy that helped repair computers, set up printers, set up Wi-Fi in the early days. And that's, I guess, that passion for technology grew. And I then started out, like my first job, I think, after finishing school, was on a service desk. I was first line support for a software vendor that delivered software to GP practices, the healthcare practices within the UK, and that software, it was very much a .NET front end, and it had a SQL database at the back end. And through that time on that support desk, I got more and more familiar with the back end side of the database, started writing SQL as part of my support role. And I think that's kind of where my data journey started, if you like.
Yeah, that's great. That's very incredible to know. And I was looking through your LinkedIn profile, and I can see your entrepreneur journey. And watching your experience literally blows my mind. I would really love to hear from you about how has your experience working and leading all these startups. You have founded this consulting firm. So how has been your experience with building a company, building a startup, and leading all these firms?
I don't think I can claim to have built a startup, really. I've always been a permanent member of staff for consultancies of various sizes. I guess the experience that I have it's centered around the Microsoft Data Platform, and I started working with Microsoft SQL Server 2000. To kind of date me, and obviously based on how grey my hair's gone with working with the Microsoft product stack since SQL 2000, originally writing VB script into DTS packages, and then that technical experience has evolved all as sort of permanent, as a permanent employee for various organisations, for the NHS in the UK. And then for various consultancies of various sizes across the UK as well, leading up to now working for a multinational consultancy such as Avanade, which is kind of part owned by Accenture and Microsoft. So from the very small to the very large, but but always as a permanent employee.
Okay, so I just have one question about the experience that you had about your tech stack that you have been working on, that is around the data. So why you have chosen the data field? Because I can see in your entire journey you have been a data guy, working with Microsoft tool and tech stacks about the data bricks and lots of data platforms you have used around your journey. So why the data field you have chosen? There are lots of some fascinating field, and so why only the data one?
I think, I spent a long time looking at the IT industry and looking at the parts of it that I enjoyed working with. I started life as on this service desk for this software vendor, and at the time I kind of looked at the front end technology, the coding that went into the .NET to deliver the front end application, and I wasn't too keen on that. What I enjoyed more was the problem solving, if you like, that came with answering questions using data. And at the time on that service desk, the customers would ring up and say, how many appointments do I have, and how many of this do I have, and all of these different analytical type questions that we could probably take for granted now with some solutions. But I enjoyed that problem solving, which led to that investigation work, that information analyst type role of writing SQL. I didn't really care what the backend database was at the time, and I didn't really have much appreciation for it. But it was that problem solving with data that I enjoyed. And I'd done things with hardware and sort of network support and administration and things before that as well. But that is that problem solving with data and being able to look at a set of business processes and understand those business processes by looking at the data that they had, understanding more about a business through the data that they collected than perhaps the business understood themselves. And that was what I think I enjoyed in the early days. And as my role progressed, I found myself doing a very similar thing, starting out in the NHS in the UK. Very much looking at all healthcare data now across different hospitals and things, and answering those similar problems. Within the NHS, that data was a lot more real, looking at patient referrals and treatments and things that were affecting real people's lives. So it was that problem solving with that data to obviously help improve those businesses with that data that was it was quite rewarding. The investigation of looking at the data, but then giving the results to people making the decisions to help improve whatever that business was doing.
Yeah, so as you have mentioned about the problem solving, definitely. So I assume that problem solving ability and the urge to help people out there to work upon different set of problems, questions, and to work on different data analytics, and all working. You have also mentioned about the services. I hope that was a push for the community. So how has been your experience with the community, helping people and facilitating all these people in the community, in the tech community?
Yeah, so my kind of introduction to the data community in the UK, it kind of started by accident, really. I was working in that sort of role within the NHS that I described, and a colleague said to me, there is this, it was a SQL user group at the time that was happening nearby to where I lived. And my colleague said, do you want to come to this user group with me? And I know nothing about this, and there was some topics, I think, on SSIS packages and things like that. So I went to this user group as an attendee with no expectations, and obviously just the spirit of that community and the knowledge sharing and the passion that these other people had. It was really great. So that's kind of where I started out in the community. And things kind of, I guess, just progressed from there. I kept attending that same user group, I then kind of built up the courage myself to speak at that user group and deliver a talk at that user group, which at the time was very much outside my comfort zone, to go and stand in front of people and deliver a talk with that sort of audience. So I did that, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that knowledge sharing, fueled by my passion for that technology. And then I looked around at other community events and conferences and what else was happening, and I then helped out at the SQL Bits event in the UK, just as a helper for that, and then spoke at that event, and then started helping out with the organizing of another event. And I guess what you could say is that through my involvement in the community, it's been a really great catalyst to my career. Just moving in those community circles, I think has directly influenced my career.
Yeah, definitely community helps a really in a different drastic manner. I have also been a part of community since a year now, and community has whatever I'm right now, this community has given me everything. That's the best way to learn and share. Whatever you are learning, you are sharing in the community. Whatever you're building, you are sharing in the community. That really helps a lot and works as a catalyst. Now my next question is quite obvious, and it's definitely related to the community. So you are the Microsoft Valuable Professional. So like MVP award, it's such a phenomenal and it's very rare in the community. So how it's been your call for this and how it feels to be an MVP?
It feels great. It's been 6 years now, actually. So sometimes I forget about it a little bit, but yeah, it was through that community contribution and that very unhealthy work-life balance, if you like. But fueled by that passion for what I do, and I guess in some cases my job becoming my hobby. But yeah, being nominated for that award and achieving it, I think in 2017 was very humbling. And then to be part of this much wider group of people that have the same award and things. The thing that I like most about the MVP award is that I have a non-disclosure agreement with Microsoft. So my passion for technology is fed by having access to the Microsoft product teams. The Microsoft product teams reaching out to the MVP community for feedback and showing us the roadmap of their products and what they're working on, and seeing things long before it becomes part of any public preview. So seeing that and influencing that and having that relationship with Microsoft, I think for me is the best part of being an MVP.
Yeah, that's great. And so far we have in this podcast we have talked about your experience. We have talked about discussed about community and everything. Now I just want to explore about your role a little bit, and I just really I'm very curious, like what a technical architect looks like. What are the roles and responsibility you hold in your company in Avanade as a technical architect?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting question. My role has changed quite a lot, I guess you could say, internally, from being a principal consultant doing delivery, acting as a solution lead and an architect for customers on projects. Now within the Avanade Centre of Excellence team, our sort of charter and mandate is to almost spearhead a lot of engagements, start working with customers that are maybe starting out on their data journey, or they have an existing project, or they're moving to the cloud. So I get to kind of come in to offer that technical oversight in some cases, to think strategically about what that customer is going to need going forward, particularly with these large enterprises, and engage with the right stakeholders to look at what their roadmap needs to be, so they get the most out of their data. So it's kind of almost a blended role now between the technical aspects and designing data platforms to meet with the customer's needs, but also thinking strategically about how that can be delivered within their industry vertical, hitting their requirements and regulatory requirements and whatever the complexities may be, involving different vendors and supporting them technically in whatever they need to do. So it's kind of a very interesting role now. I get to play with lots of things, and I get to enjoy looking at that strategic roadmap, which as an MVP, it feeds in very nicely to knowing what Microsoft have got coming for their products, so I can then obviously help and inform my customers' decisions with what technology choices they make.
Yeah, that really feels great. You are enjoying your role, and that's really great work that you are doing, the role you are right into, and you are just enjoying that work, and that definitely fuels up the work and the efficiency too. Now, as I have phenomenal experience in the industry, so this is the right question to ask, definitely. So according to me, so I would really like to know about your views, like where according to you the future is taking us, and how will this industry will be going to drive the future, and is there any specific skill you will suggest someone at this point of time to learn to be future ready?
Yeah, good question. Probably to draw on some experience of some of the work I've been doing with customers at the moment, I've had a lot of focus on delivering a data mesh architecture. The thinking that's come out of martinfowler.com and also Zhamak Dakhani from ThoughtWorks, that sort of set of data mesh principles has been something that's motivated a lot of conversations with customers at the moment. Understanding how data can become a product and how it can scale and how we can organize ourselves to be domain orientated, to be decentralized. So I think the problems of getting insight from data remains the same. All businesses want to make better decisions with their data. I think the technology, how we apply it, some of the concepts that we use to do that, so I think those things can be new, but the problem remains the same. Maybe to answer your question directly, I think for anybody starting out, there's lots of languages, there's lots of technology, there's lots of ways you can go about doing things now. The breadth of technology that we have in Microsoft Azure is massive, and I find myself my brain hurts when I look at the breadth of technology that exists versus the depth of knowledge that you then need in that technology in order to effectively deliver something. So I would say to people, if they want to know what languages they should pick up and what they should work with, I would almost certainly say SQL is a great language to understand when it comes to manipulating data. The other advantage you've got with SQL is that it now comes in so many different forms. It can, of course, be applied to the Microsoft stack with SQL Server and all the iterations and different implementations Microsoft offer for a SQL database, for a Synapse dedicated SQL pool, and all of those different product variants where T-SQL can be applied. But then if you look across the technology stack as well, you can apply SQL of a flavor to Oracle. You can apply Spark SQL if you're implementing Databricks or something like that. So I think SQL is a language that's kind of stood the test of time when it comes to data manipulation and querying. So I'd probably say, it's a good language to start with. And then you probably almost want to supplement it with another programming language that's maybe a lot richer, that's a bit more object orientated. So something like Python, of course, is very common, very mainstream now. I learnt C# and .NET. It would be sort of my second go-to language, and the Microsoft framework offers a lot of ways that you can apply C#, including through Synapse as well now. But I think it's that if you want to get into the data industry, it's learning a data query language, a procedural language, a declarative language like SQL, and then in your personal toolkit having another language that's a bit more object orientated that you can use when necessary, like Python, like C#, like Scala, like something else. That would be kind of my perspective, aligned to the Microsoft technologies that I see and look at.
Yeah, so listeners, I hope you got the broader, because Paul has given a broader aspect about the future avenues that that will definitely help you out to be the future ready. Now, I just have one last question for you, Andrew. Also, it's more regarding an informal question, but still I just want to ask. So, if you will get 24 hours without any deadlines, without any pressure, plenty of free time, no official restrictions, what are the things you would love to do in those 24 hours?
What, personally and professionally, or what's the scope
it's like
of this?
a personal question. So something like, how is your thought process? I just want to know about this, not professionally, just out of that professional zone.
I might play around with the wiring in my garage. I've always threatened the wife that I'm going to quit my current job and become an electrician. I did electronic engineering at college many years ago, and portable appliance testing I'm qualified to do as well. So I've kind of always had that sideline there of wiring as well. So I might update the wiring in my garage. I might go into my cupboard and alter the patch panel that I have for my home network. Maybe the VNets on it. It'll be something technical related, get a Raspberry Pi and deploy Home Assistant and start playing with my smart home setup and automation and something like that, something technical related, something probably not involving data directly, but that's what I might play around with if I had 24 hours free time.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting that you just mentioned about wiring and stuff, all these things. Now, at last, do you have something in your mind? Do you like to share your views? You like something, a quote or something like that for a last piece of advice for the listeners?
I think something that Avanade has taught me recently, and something that they've kind of really put a label on, which I didn't appreciate, I think, until now, was having a growth mindset. Not being afraid of challenge, not being afraid of doing something wrong, not being afraid of things being hard. Having that growth mindset that you can overcome challenge, and certainly through this community. I think it's okay to accept when you don't know something. The technology industry is massive, and it's impossible for anybody to know everything. You just can't. There's too much technology in there. So just accepting that if you don't know, just ask for help. And I think that's one of the great things about our industry, that we have such a great community, that there is almost certainly always going to be somebody out there, myself included, that's always happy to help. So I think that's kind of now the comfort that I feel, that if I have a technical problem, if I don't know the answer, I can almost certainly reach out to somebody that does know the answer. So it's not what you know, it's who you know, you might say.
Yeah, definitely. So, guys, of a person having 15 plus years of experience is saying, never hesitate to ask for help. Just put your ego aside and just ask for the help, and just always have a growth mindset. So thanks for that advice. We'll definitely keep that in mind. And thanks for joining to this podcast. And it was very nice talking to you, discussing everything about your experience, about your thought process and everything. It was really nice, great to know about your interesting, 24-hour stuff, that wiring stuff. Also, that was very cool. And cheers and congratulations for your MVP award, and best of luck for your future community work. Really looking forward to collaborate in future too with you, Paul. And
Thank
thank you
you.
everyone for
Thank you
listening
for
to
having
this
me.
podcast. Yes. So we are coming up with lots of amazing podcasts with super amazing folks. So do listen to our podcast. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Have a nice day.